Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about the Thilronian Peninsula in the Flanaess. And that's the place in the upper northeast corner of the map that has those three barbarian kingdoms. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in there. But I thought it'd be fun to take a little bit of a look at that area of the world of Greyhawk today on Greyhawk Grognard. So the first place I want to talk about is the Frost Barbarians. And in order to really understand what's going on here, it's helpful to understand a little Earth history in regards to the history of Scandinavia. Because the barbarians of the Thilronian Peninsula, the Snow, Frost, and Ice Barbarians, are very solidly based on Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. It's a very Viking-esque culture, and even the history parallels it a little, and you'll see this in a second. The Frost Barbarians are presented as the weakest of the three barbarian kingdoms, and in fact they're under the control of the Snow Barbarians, because at the Battle of Shamblefields 20 years ago, which would be 556, they were defeated, and now there's a puppet ruler that was installed by the Snow Barbarians, and so that's what's going on. That's a very good parallel to what was going on in Scandinavia, where Sweden would dominate Norway at one point, and then Denmark would dominate another. So there was this constant reshuffling of alignments and allegiances in real-world Scandinavia, and I really like that Gygax put something like that in here, where there's the one kingdom is really controlled by the other, but not completely, because we're also told that the Frost Barbarians have kind of secretly sprung back, and they're pretty much independent now, except the king does still have an oath to the king of the Snow Barbarians. And in fact, the Frost Barbarians have allied themselves with Ratic, which is down south below the Timberway Forest. And so they're trying to strengthen themselves that way, ultimately the goal being to declare full independence. So I really like the way they kind of put that interplay in there, and it's just a couple of sentences, but it really builds up a sense of, okay, this is an active, vital area, things are happening, and it's just really, really cool to see. That said, the Frost Barbarians are pretty much your straight your straight Viking culture. They all three of them really are. So there's really not a lot to distinguish the one from the other. Even their shields are exactly the same. They just have different colors, which again I think is a nod to the real world, where all the Scandinavian nations have that Scandinavian cross on their flags. It's just the colors change. So I think Gygax was doing that deliberately with the heraldry of these three nations, where it's exactly the same design. It's just the colors change. So I kind of like those nods to the real world. So next up on our tour of the Thilronian Peninsula are the Snow Barbarians, the Schnai. This is pretty much Sweden, because it's described as being the largest, most populated, most prosperous land of the three barbarian kingdoms. They're the ones who are in charge of the Frost Barbarians nominally. We're told here in the entry in the gold box on the Snow Barbarians, this is where we really get into the politics of what's going on, because we know that the Baron of Ratic has sent out messengers with a big grand plan to unite all four countries and take out the Hold of Stonefist and the Bone March, and then they'd split up different things. It's really cool to see it's like two sentences, and it evokes all of this months and months of diplomacy and what can happen and different permutations. So I love that. We're also told that the Snow Barbarians raid down south into the Great Kingdom and the Sea Barons, just like Viking raiders would go out and harry England and France and so forth. So we really get a feel for this is where the Vikings are, and but it's also this dynamic living area, and we see all this stuff bubbling in the background, which is just beautiful opportunities for a DM who wants to really take their campaign to the next level with politics and so forth. Next up, we come to the Snow Barbarians, the Schnai. I see these guys as basically Norway. They're the northernmost Barbarian Kingdom, the lands they have are probably not nearly as nice as the ones that the Snow or Frost Barbarians have. They do a lot of raiding. They raid not only the Snow Barbarians, they raid into the Bone March. They raid into the Sea Barons, who they have a huge grudge against. They raid into the Hold of Stonefist. So they're pretty prototypically, these are the guys in the long ships that come around. But they also set up this nice rivalry with the Hold of Stonefist, which is later called Stonehold in the setting. But they set up that really cool rivalry where they do raid against them, but they also respect them and so forth. So just in general, it's painted very well. But one of the interesting things is that this is the only barbarian kingdom that we're told raids the other barbarians. So the Ice Barbarians will not shy away from hitting the Snow Barbarians, and which I think sets up a really nice dynamic. How are they going to all align together if they're fighting amongst each other? It just really little details like that I think really make stuff come to life. Next up, we come to the Hold of Stonefist, and this is a remarkable entry because almost all of the information that we're given about it refers to the guy who founded it 100 years ago, Vlek Kol Vleksed. There's the name. But it's mostly his history about how the land was founded. It's basically a bunch of bandits and brigands get together and to kick out the original inhabitants or conquer the original inhabitants of the place, and a lot of information is given about who can participate in the biannual battles for recognition, and who can become a chieftain and so forth. So there's a lot of stuff like that that goes into the entry, and we really don't get a feel for what the Hold of Stonefist is doing in the modern day. It's more of there's this land of really excellent fighters, and they have really good cavalry, and they're a big menace, but we don't really get a feel for how they interact with their neighbors. I mean, in the Ice Barbarian entry, we're told, they raid into Stonefist. But in the Stonefist entry, we don't get a sense of who they in turn raid. Do they go through the pass into the Frost Barbarians? Do they go through the other pass into the Duchy of Ten? Do they go to the Rovers of the Barons? We don't really get a feel for that in the entry on Stonefist, which is kind of a shame, because it would really help if we got an idea of what's going on there. But I mean, it is a very well presented and unique social structure that we do get. So that's a good thing, is that it's not just yet another neo-Viking culture. This is its own thing, and it's interesting to see. I just wish there was a little more fleshing out of how they do interact with their neighbors. And that brings us to the other major thing that you see on the map here, and that is the forests and mountains and the bay. Each one of those, of course, gets a little entry. The forests, they're basically all their pine forests, and they tell you, you can use the spiky forest to make masts for ships, and in the sablewood, they can use a special oil, and it comes out all dark, and they won't export it. So it's kind of little. Gygax definitely loved his trees, and we are treated to that in those entries. The Chorus Mountains, we're told, are inhabited by men in the lower reaches, and then there are a lot of humanoids in the upper reaches and in the interior. Same with the Griff Mountains, except as the name implies, there's a lot of griffins and hippogriffs and things like that. So, all these kinds of neat little things. And in Grendep Bay, we're told there are sea monsters, which is also a nice little touch. So that's pretty much it for the Thilronian Peninsula. It's a wonderful place if you're looking to do some Viking kind of stuff. It's definitely, it's got that vibe. It's definitely set up that way. Lots of parallels with the real world. So, this is a really cool thing if you wanted to do a little sub-campaign, for a couple of sessions. This would be a wonderful way to do it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please hit the like button, subscribe. There's the Patreon link below. There's a web store link below. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you later.